Good evening, everyone. First, the thank yous. Pipes, you're a goat and have been nothing less than a fantastic sister in our friendship. Thanks for the intro that you definitely used ChatGPT to write. To the Chapel Council, specifically Reverend Hardy. You were literally my first friend when I got here. I remember when I was a red-tailed hawk, we took the hike down Ohio trails and we had a fantastic conversation. The Rev is someone that is truly compassionate, kind, and selfless. She puts this community first, and I appreciate that. To my Millbrook dad, Mr. Smith, without your diligent badgering, support, and pressure, I could have not unfolded into the student I am now. I'm not gonna lie, when I first met him, he scared the hell out of me. But after about 400 breakfast dates, this is the guy that knows me best, and I trust him with anything. Everyone, I ask that you please stop and have a 5-minute conversation with this guy, because he will challenge any single thought you've ever had. He's just a great guy, too. To the Millbrook faculty and staff in general, your commitment and service is too often overlooked. Personally, I thank you all for your generosity, kindness, respect, and knowledge. It is unfortunate that we overlook and underappreciate all of you because you commit an uncomfortable amount of time to this community just for the benefit of the student body. Think about it. These people have families, friends, hobbies, and still, they spend about 12 hours a day on this campus. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Lastly, to my family and friends, you are the most important people in my life and constantly remind me that I am the luckiest guy in the world. Anyways, I'm George Mendoza from Newburgh, New York. I'm a proud first-generation Peruvian in the United States. I love soccer, the movie Cars, Lionel Messi, music, and goldfish. I wrote this speech instead of focusing on my college essay, so I'm sorry, Mrs. Allen and Mrs. Vollmer. Some of you may think this is the poster kid who Millbrook has been spamming on their Instagram for the past month. And while that may be true, I like to think there's more to me than that. I won't describe myself any further because A, it'll make me uncomfortable, and B, I like to think I'm pretty approachable. So if you want to talk, just find me on the bricks. This chapel talk is mine, but it's not really about me. Instead, I will introduce ideas that are essential to my perspective and my view on life. I will also reflect and incorporate some of the ways these ideals have applied to my life, those ideals being respect, opportunity, expectations, and effort. So, I would like to bring your attention first towards the idea of sacrifice, an act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more important or worthy. Broadly, that would describe the action my dad made just over 30 years ago when he first arrived in this country. Already a father, my dad left every single thing he knew and came here with his dream in mind being that his family could thrive in an opportunity he never had. He worked endlessly under the sun at a flower production company to support the family he left behind. So much so, he didn't buy himself a pair of shoes until 9 months after he arrived in the States. To this day, he pushes himself to ensure that his kids have a comfortable space when we return to visit him. My dad is nothing short of a hero. For this man, I will always be grateful, and this talk is dedicated to you, Pa. I love you, and I wake up every day wanting to make you proud and make your sacrifice worth it. Thank you for blessing me with this life. Now, what have you learned so far? Nothing really, since I'm not exactly expecting you all to move to a foreign country and start a new life. But you did learn some sort of perspective on the weight of a sacrifice. And yet, it doesn't have to be that scary. Although I'm not suggesting that I myself will also move to another country and start a new life, it makes me very aware about the choices I make every day. For example, last night I put off my stats homework to prioritize calc, and that stats homework I had to make up during my glorious free block this morning. Every Wednesday night, I commit my evening to tutors and it's not exactly a space where I can prioritize my own work. Anytime that a friend is down, needs a hug, just a conversation, I put down whatever I'm doing and help them out. So, why does this matter? Why should you care? To help explain this, I chose a quote from the queen of shaking hips, Shakira. Quote, "You can't achieve anything in life without a small amount of sacrifice," end quote. Everything in life is given. Everything in life is earned, not given. As to how extreme the effort required is, that can vary, but nonetheless, effort is required. What cannot vary is the involvement of a sacrifice. Again, scary word, but doesn't have to be. Embracing and committing to that fear factor of giving something up or making a change only makes your outcome just that much better. By committing to the vulnerability of change, you put yourself in a position to make yourself or others better. When I think about sacrifices for others, I constantly think back to my dad. His selflessness has supported 4 of my relatives to immigrate to the United States. It sounds like an easy task, but it isn't. Months or years of processing to support nieces and nephews, and it doesn't stop there. He constantly puts time and effort into supporting people in our community trying to navigate this rigorous process. People he usually doesn't even know that well. He doesn't earn anything from this. No prizes, acknowledgments, or trophies. It is truly a sacrifice of his time and effort for the benefit of others. An extremely relatable example. We all left the comfort of our homes, towns, cities, or even countries to come to the middle of nowhere in New York. As you sit in front of me now, you are literally in the process of accomplishing a sacrifice. You left home for a private education away from your families, which is huge. Give yourself a pat on the back. We've come to terms with it at this point, but some of these students in this room are as young as 14. Like when I met Ranley, he was like 12. We all commit an unbelievable amount of time to extracurricular activities around campus. And it takes time. It's tiring, but it's worth it. At the end of your time here, you'll have more than a baked up resume to get you to college. So trust that process, please. I would say the best thing about a sacrifice is that it's a choice. There's no force or infraction point for not making a sacrifice. Being in the position of choice is a privilege, and it shows the true character of an individual. One's choice to make a sacrifice for the greater good is really up to them. You write your own story. Now, I hate to make this about me, but this is my time, so I'm going to share my experiences. I just said there's usually nothing compelling you to make a sacrifice, but unfortunately, there was a big case in my life where sacrifice was forced. When I was only in 4th grade, my mom decided to return to Peru. I remember saying goodbye, thinking it would be a short trip and she would be back just like that. I was always a mama's boy, and I'll own that, by the way. Very quickly, that short trip turned into years. I went from seeing her every day to just a few times a year. Not long after came the divorce. It was hard as a child because I thought she just wanted nothing to do with me anymore. I felt abandoned, honestly. Truthfully, at one point, I acted as if I didn't even have a mom and avoided all conversation about it. As I grew older, I realized that I was that something else regarded as more important or worthy in this situation. My mom needed to figure out her naturalization process so that in the long term, she could really thrive in this country. Not having a higher education or citizenship limited her here before she left. It was a long-term process, but now she has finished her school in Peru and is a proud resident of the United States. I took her leaving me really personally at first, but in the long run, I knew she was thinking about being here for me now. I still love you and appreciate all your efforts, Ma. Next, expectations. They can be the most mentally challenging obstacles one can be given. Most times, I make myself vulnerable to them by committing to the dozens of things you see me doing around. I feel the weight from my family and friends from not wanting to disappoint them. At school, I have a lingering feeling that I can never take my place for granted here because it is something that is earned, not given. There's no safety net for a student like me here. I hate the feeling of not being enough and knowing I could have done better. Given all this, I've created an expectation of myself that is really, really hard to maintain for 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mainly just because of that really high standard I hold myself to. As much as I try, I can't be everywhere at once. I can't help everyone. Even if I think I can handle one more thing, it might just be the thing that tips the boat. And say I can balance it all. Then, I don't know how to make time for myself. Don't know where to draw a line. I bet you were wondering, what was that introduction song? And why did George Mendoza request it? First off, thank you to all. I can't believe you actually learned a new instrument. That is insane. Couldn't even do that in 17 years of living. But that song goes back to the man who keeps me upright here at Millbrook. When I first really started to push myself here and challenge myself in every way I could, Mr. Smith would tell me, "You just keep loading that wagon." Eventually, he showed me the song, and despite the fact that it is literally the opposite of anything I would ever listen to in my free time, I mean, you'd think I played Bad Bunny or something. It was a ridiculous choice, they didn't believe me. But the lyrics of the song were extremely relatable. Anytime I add one more thing to my plate, I just keep loading that wagon. And most times, I don't worry about the mule. I often find myself sacrificing time that is essential to my own development for the benefit of others. As you may remember, last year I spent a ridiculous amount of time working with communications on trying to enhance the student body voice through our media accounts. Was it perfect? No. Do I want to keep spending my time trying to help? Yes. Do I have time? No. Should Millbrook just hire me into the position after I graduate? Yeah. It makes me happy to know I'm helping others, and frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage you to challenge yourself, but everyone in this room is human. We all have a breaking point, a peak, or a limit. I know I'm cooked when it seems like I just want to give everything up and cry. It's true. But when you're down, it just takes a conversation with someone that knows the real you. Back to my breakfast dates. I will rant to Mr. Smith for so long, the entire 30 minutes, just rant. And he'll remind me that nothing is impossible. It just requires the right effort and attitude. Don't allow for that self-sabotaging. Find your sweet spot. To be your best self, to maximize your potential, you need to understand yourself first. I'm not perfect. I don't even think being perfect is real. I get defeated. I make wrong choices. I cry. I don't score goals like Francis Bonsu. I can't skate to save my life, and I can't even cradle a lacrosse ball. Truth is, it's perfectly fine. Wise man once told me that the biggest waste of time is comparing yourself to others. Instead, wake up and strive to be better than you yesterday. Don't compete with others, compete with yourself. Today, I try to share with you a little bit of how I think about this life and these opportunities that our parents and guardians have given us. I'm still on this pursuit to find the most efficient self. And some of my goals are what drive that pursuit. To be where my feet are, I appreciate the hard work of my family. As you know, without them, I couldn't be here. First thing on my mind when I make a decision is how in the long run can this benefit my family? Hard now, easy later sort of mentality. But the biggest goal being that I want to retire my dad as fast as possible and put his long, hard years of work to a rest. It's the least he deserves for everything he has done for me and my family. With the blessing and privilege of going to Millbrook, I realize that with hard work, I can earn a future where I can accomplish that timeline just that much faster. And all it takes is sacrifice. Appreciate the things you have here. At the end of the day, this school is great. If you sacrifice a little effort, you are more than capable of achieving anything you want to do. The privilege of choice, the opportunity for sacrifice. Nothing in life is worth doing if you don't do it as your best self. Load your wagon. Thank you.